hope you're well, and welcome to Why Play Music. I'm your host, Steve Burke. In this episode, I'm pleased to be joined by my good friend Derek Dupuis. Derek Dupuis is a songwriter and a multi-instrumentalist, originally from Salem, Massachusetts. Since graduating from Berklee College of Music, Derek has since moved to Brooklyn, where he works as a sideman, performing with a variety of different projects. He also produces his own blend of pop, rock, and prog music. Derek has toured as a keyboard player and singer for the Video Game Orchestra, a gig that has taken him on tours through Asia, Europe, and South America. Derek and I have played together in various projects for over 7 years now. Derek is a deep thinker and is without question one of my favorite musicians. I seem to grow as a musician each time I get to play with him. Derek and I discuss creativity, moving to New York, and what got him involved in music in the first place. The first piece of music we perform was written by Derek Dupuis and is titled "Don't Let Me Kill Your Plants." The final song is "Ain't Wastin' Time No More" by the Allman Brothers. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Without further ado, here's my conversation and jam with Derek Dupuis.
All right, sweet. Ready? 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. To the city not long ago, a gray and frigid day, when no one was around. A house full of travelers, the master's gone away on holiday. Tiptoe without a sound, an unfamiliar place in winter. But this room has memories. I put my bag down by the photos of your father and hope I don't disturb the peace. Don't let me kill your plans. Don't let me overstay my welcome. Don't let me kill your plans. Let's just pretend I never came. 'Cause I understand that this is not my home. To the restaurants, they glared at me, but recognized your name. They wish you all the best. I walk through the empty streets, no need to stop, 'cause they all look the same. So easy to forget. Everywhere we go, we're lonely. Were there people here before? And I'm so envious that you can see your mother. I think I'll just head out the door. Don't let me kill your plans. Don't let me overstay my welcome. Don't let me kill your plans. Let's just pretend I never came. overstay my welcome. Don't let me kill your plans. Let's just pretend I never came. Don't let me kill your plans. Don't let me overstay my welcome. Don't let me kill your plans. Let's just pretend I never came. 'Cause I understand that this is not my home.
So Derek, thanks for being on the show.
Oh, thank you for having me here, Steve.
Yeah, episode 2. So how's everything going?
It's going good. It's going good. Well, we're currently, for those of you listening in whatever time you are.
The future.
The future. For those of you listening in the future, we had a pretty bad COVID season. So just been laying low. The holidays are over, so I've just been out trying to stay safe and all that.
Now, you've been in New York for how long? You moved here shortly before COVID, yeah?
Yeah, or shortly after COVID, actually. I've been here bouncing around. I was here in 2020 for 2 months, but more long term, I've been here for almost exactly a year.
Wow.
I moved into my current room, I think about a year ago. It was either January 4th or 5th.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Right. And so you live in one of those houses where there's like a whole bunch of musicians. So what's that experience been like?
Oh, it's wonderful. It's wonderful.
How many musicians live in that house?
There are 8 very talented musicians in this house. Our ages range from like 23 to 30 or something like that. And they're all just wonderful people, and it's very inspiring to live in an environment like that.
Sounds like it. Yeah, it must be. I mean, it's an inspiring thing to be in New York in general, but to also be surrounded by like 7 other musicians. It really must be something.
Mm-hmm. For sure. I mean, in a way, it kind of reminds me of when I was back in college. I went to Berklee College of Music, and I was living in the dorms there. So in a way, it seems kind of familiar, where you can just walk down your hallway and you're hearing 3 different musical projects going on. Everybody's practicing a different thing. Everybody's exploring in their own way, and you're kind of absorbing it from the other side of the door. But this is kind of better because I don't have to worry about like doing homework, and and I'm not living in one room with 3 people in it. So
Right.
It's a good time.
So here we are. You know, one thing I like to ask is if you had to describe yourself, how would you describe yourself? How would you describe what you do musically, but also, you know, what do you have to say about yourself as a person? Like, how would you introduce yourself?
Oh, wow. Man, that's a hard question. I always have trouble answering that kind of question. How would I describe myself? How would I introduce myself? Hi, I'm Derek. I am, I'm not sure. I love music, obviously. And, Steve, you might want to cut this part out later, but like,
Well, all right. So what instrument do you play?
Piano primarily.
Uh-huh.
I like to sing too. Yeah.
When I think of you, I definitely think of like somebody who's definition of a multi-instrumentalist. I mean, it seems like you just play every instrument. As long as I've known you, you've been better than me at my main instrument, first of all. And then on top of that, you also seem to be better at every other instrument than anybody else around. And I'm just buttering you up, I know, but like seriously, you seem to play so many instruments. So I guess maybe if you just start at the beginning, like what was your first instrument? How did you get into playing music? Like take us back to the beginning.
Oh, wow. Yeah, thanks for asking that. It's a good way to ask it. Primarily I play piano. I say that because in terms of formal training, I learned through piano, and I took lessons in that, but I grew up singing. I grew up playing harmonica. I tried to teach myself guitar. I grew up in a really musical family. So I guess if I could describe myself in a really odd way, I would. Sometimes I think that I'm natively a musician because I feel like I was born into this family that is very musically adept. My father is a drummer and an incredible singer. His whole side of the family is they're all really talented singers. Like my grandparents play and they sing. My cousins are also amazing musicians. My sister too. So from the moment I was born, I was always hearing people singing. I was always hearing instruments being practiced. I was always hearing bands being rehearsed in my house. I used to be like, as a really tiny kid, I would run down to the basement where my dad's band was practicing and they'd be playing like Beach Boys tunes. I remember like they were practicing that one harmony part in Good Vibrations by the Beach Boys where it's just this a cappella break and it's this giant chord like and they were just drilling it over and over again because it's this giant complex chord. But I remember hearing that live and being like worked through in my own house when I was, I don't know, like 4 years old or something like that.
And that had quite an impact on you to hear people singing in harmony, practicing and working on music, like working hard on music, it sounds like.
Yeah, absolutely. And another thing, talking about multi-instrumentalism and just being able to dabble in a couple instruments is that I had those resources available because I grew up with so many different musicians that there was always a guitar or a bass or a piano lying around the house.
So what was it about the piano? You said that was kind of that was how you really learned music. Mm-hmm. What was it about the piano you think that drew you at an early age?
I honestly, the ability to play a lot of notes at once in a very easy way was a big thing. I remember hearing another musician in an interview talk about how the piano is like almost like the shrine of harmony because it's just all of the notes are laid out just on 88 keys. And I think that's what drew me to it. I was able to play these really full things and also I was also able to sing while I was doing it because I wasn't like a wind instrument. And it was easier to press the strings than to try to coordinate strumming a guitar. So I could focus on playing this rhythm and these great chords and sing at the same time. And that really got me into loving music because my first love of playing was just working out these pop songs and these rock songs and just doing piano and voice, learning the chords, learning how to sing it, and just playing it for hours.
And so you primarily learned by ear, by just listening to music and trying to figure it out? Yeah,
totally. Either by ear or if there was a chord I couldn't figure out, I would go to Google and look up like, the guitar, guitartabs.com or something and look up like a chord sheet. Uh-huh. And yeah, that was how I did it. And it was that paired with formal piano lessons. So I feel like half of my practice schedule would be like a little bit of what I was supposed to be playing for lessons and then a lot of the Beatles. Like whatever I was listening to at the time, I would just try to recreate that on the piano.
And did you have a teacher who was sort of rigid and teaching you classical music, teaching you like piano repertoire, or did you have a piano teacher who was kind of showing you songs like what you wanted to learn, like the Beatles songs?
My piano teacher, well, I had a few different piano teachers as a kid, but the one that I stayed with for the longest, and that was a pretty long time, Andrea Kowalski, or Pensa, I can't remember her last name actually. She did teach me classical type music and repertoire, a lot of technique, which was great. But she also was very open to whatever I was drawn to myself, which was really, really welcoming and really good. And I think that really made me unafraid to pursue whatever I wanted to. And I think that also has to do with because she herself as a musician is open to. I follow her a little bit in her own musical endeavors, and she's not just a strict classical pianist. She does so much more. And having a teacher like that, I think, who's really open to that kind of thing, it allows you to just learn whatever you can.
And I think that's like the classic story, right? I think that's the classic story unfortunately, for so many adults, which is that you had a teacher when you were a child who wasn't that way. Somebody who was very rigid and not really open to what, say, I don't know, an 8-year-old or a 9-year-old is interested in learning, or, learning Beatles songs when you're supposed to be learning classical piano repertoire. Mm-hmm. And that's the classic story, right? That so many people gave up on music because it was taught in that way, and they never got that moment that luckily sounds like you did, and I certainly did, which was you got to take over your own musical direction, and you got to start playing the music that really spoke to you. Mm-hmm. And it sounds like what the music that really spoke to you when you were younger was like the Beatles, Beach Boys.
Oh yeah, yep.
What are some others?
The Beatles and the Beach Boys were the two heavy hitters. I think I almost listened to them exclusively from maybe late elementary school until the end of middle school. I think it was really an obsession. And then I got into high school, and I randomly found Rush's Moving Pictures album, and that, I feel like, really opened up a whole other plethora of bands that I just found and discovered in the same vein, and that really kickstarted other things that I got interested in and just really opened up my mind.
In what sort of ways? Like Rush obviously being like a real heady kind of prog rock kind of sound, did that lead you towards things like jazz or like modern kind of fusion sounds? Is that it?
Yeah, absolutely. Because when I would listen to the Beatles or the Beach Boys, those two bands they're so complex already.
Sure.
But I never really paired them or connected them with other kinds or other genres. I was always just like, this is rock, this is pop rock, so I wouldn't really check anything out other than that. But when I started listening to Rush, and then listening to Yes and Genesis and Jethro Tull, and King Crimson, whenever I would like research these bands and read about them, I would always see these other genres connected to them. Like, oh, they're like a jazz rock band, or like this is like an element of jazz music, and they would do all these technical things that were just so much more expansive and crazy, to put it that way. So in that way, I felt like I was just more open to more interesting and eclectic music, and I think it just kind of expanded from there.
Wow. So you were really into music. I mean, I think I met you when you were maybe still in high school when I met you, I think. Could that be true?
Yeah, I think I was a senior.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then shortly after that, like not long after that, we were in a band together with Sarah Saminsky, Eric Reardon, and Derek Hayden, called Sarah and the Wild Versatile, and we did that for several years. So, I mean, that's really where you and I got to know each other. Yeah,
that was a really amazing time for me. Hopefully for all of us. Like I think playing with you guys was the first time that I really experienced like consistent live performance and playing in public performance spaces that like wasn't connected to a school or something like that. So I'm really thankful for that time and the things that we did in that band as a band, because it was really an incredible experience.
Yeah, same here. I mean, we spent a lot of time working through things and playing a lot of gigs and traveling a little bit. And that was at a time for me where I was really playing a lot of kind of local gigs around Boston and really getting into that world as well, like playing 5 nights a week, playing lots and lots of gigs, kind of making a living as a professional musician for the first time. But what's wild is that while that was going on, you were going to Berkeley at that time.
Yeah.
So I remember playing gigs with you, and you were, you'd have to catch a train back to Boston, or you'd have to like be at class early the next day.
Yeah. that was an amazing time. I just remembered you were playing a 6-string bass during that period.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
That was amazing.
I played an Ibanez 6-string bass for maybe 3 or 4 years. And it was around that time that I kind of refell in love with the Fender basses and like started playing 4-string Fender basses kind of exclusively. And that's kind of where I'm at now, but I still love the 6-string.
Yeah. I mean, I love the 6-string too. I think that might have been this. I think watching you play 6-string was probably the first time I saw a real 6-string bass.
Is that right?
Yeah,
in real
like
life,
in person,
in the wild.
Yeah, and then it was like a little while after that that I found out about like Thundercat and like Anthony Jackson. So it was really cool to see.
So like, let's fast forward a little bit. So you moved to New York about a year ago permanently, and you did the thing which a lot of people from Boston seem to do. I certainly did it, where you sort of dip your toes in, maybe do a lot of traveling back and forth, some extended stays in the city, and then eventually you found a place and you set up kind of permanently. I mean, that's a big move, and it's a big move to kind of leave your home scene and to leave your hometown and come to New York. And lots of people do it, and it's a difficult thing to do. What is the reason for you being in New York, do you think? What draws you here?
Ooh, I think it's, well, the energy is one thing, and I know a lot of people say that about this city, but it's just, the energy of this city. But that really is one of them, because people are constantly just exploring and discovering and working on new things, and I needed that reinvigoration at this time in my life. I think there's more opportunities here. There's so many people to meet, so many incredible musicians and artists to connect with and get to know and be friends with. Those are the big reasons, you know.
And going back to the reasons why you really fell in love with music, it sounds like, you know, your family was doing it. It's a big part of who you are, and it's a big part probably of your ideas of family and of home and of, you know, happy. I'm sure a lot of your happy memories are associated with playing music with your family, right?
Oh, yeah.
So to be here in New York City, you know, it does take you away from that. I know we're not that far away from Boston or Salem, but as you've gotten older, what are some of the other reasons that you're really pursuing music? I mean, you got to make some money. You're really good at it, but it's a difficult lifestyle. What do you think keeps you in music? What do you think is the thing that pushes you forward, that allows you to keep kind of going with this, in a lot of ways, difficult career path?
Well, I feel like I'm almost discovering myself still, and a lot of the ways that I discover myself and learn new things about myself is through making music. Because I think that music is a form of communication, and I feel very comfortable communicating in that way. And so when I'm learning to say new things, I feel like I personally am learning things about myself and almost enlightening myself in a kind of way. So I guess maybe personal discovery is one big one.
That's really interesting. So like, in what ways does music allow you to go deeper? So you get new ways of expressing yourself, but what kinds of things have you learned?
It's a good question. It's how to love myself, how to be confident in myself, how to what's the word? How to show myself in front of people, how to be myself in front of people, I guess. That might be a really vague way to say it, but
No, I'm with you. And so music, being able to, like, is it to be able to successfully play music? Is it to play music and to know that you have an effect on people? Like, is that gives you confidence? It makes you realize that, you know, as you said, you love yourself, you're capable of being loved, that what you're doing is valuable. Is it that? Is it that validation from other people? Or is it more like sort of a self-discovery of what's in there, and then like you like what's coming out of you regardless of an audience? Does that make sense?
Yeah, at this point in my life, I try not to think about how other people are viewing me, or how other people are reviewing the music I make. So it really is about what I'm showing myself, I guess, and how I feel about what I'm doing. I guess like building up confidence and learning confidence just for myself is like a really big thing right now. Because that's also a thing that I've always struggled with, musically and outside of music. So I use music as a way to build that and build up a way to love myself, because it's a beautiful thing and it's therapeutic, and it just feels fulfilling.
Is there sort of a spiritual side to your music? Like, is there a spiritual component to your relationship with music?
I guess the short answer, no. But there are times when I you have that feeling that like, oh my God, you've just reached another level of something. Whether it's for a moment or for a little bit. But in terms of like, if you meant like a religious kind of thing, no, not really. Although I did go to church as a kid, and that the music in church did have an effect on me, and honestly did push me towards pursuing music.
Interesting. Do you consider yourself a spiritual person today?
I don't think so. I guess that's the thing I'm still trying to figure out right now. At the moment, no, but I guess my mind is always open if I ever feel something different or have a different view.
Gotcha. So you moved to New York, and how's it been going?
It's been going well.
You're enjoying it?
Yeah, I'm having a great time. I mean, at the moment, COVID is ravaging the land.
Yeah.
So that definitely makes things unique. I feel like I'm having a much different experience than other people at different points in time. Because when I first moved here, I wasn't able to go anywhere. It was like you had to stay at home. It was like, yes, I'm in New York, but I have to stay in my room all the time. And for me, that was great in a way. I actually loved it because being in this city, and just being in a new environment and having this like almost this fresh start, this reinvigoration, that was a really fruitful period for me. But definitely not the typical moving to New York type of experience.
Right. I think when most people move to New York, you spend all your money going to clubs and checking out all the baddest musicians around for the first few months until you realize like, you can't keep that lifestyle up. Or for you, that wasn't even an option. Like what clubs? I mean, it might have been like somebody playing in Prospect Park or something, but you weren't going to the Village and checking out whoever, at Smalls or whatever.
Exactly. I can probably count on one hand like how many shows I've actually seen in the city since I've moved here.
Wow.
Probably only really a handful of shows in the whole year I've been here. And it also made it more challenging that I decided not to drink alcohol for all of 2021. So I wasn't just going to go to a club and drink, because I would just be drinking water. And so I would have, like, the conditions were, if I was going to go see a show, it had to be, the COVID cases had to be low. I had to be vaccinated. And I had to drink water. So the music had to be really good.
Yeah. To get you out of the house and get you over there.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I think for so long it was kind of a challenge, but there was a period, I think in the summer of 2021 where it really was coming back, and it was a good time. And I know I was able to see some music. But the not drinking thing, I think, works to your advantage, because as we were talking about, I mean, drinking in New York is just unbelievably expensive. Drinking alcohol in general is expensive, pretty much everywhere. But in New York City, it's a whole nother level. But going out to see clubs, I mean, you pay like a $15 cover, and then it's a 2-drink minimum plus tip, and it's easily a $50, $60 night just to go see whoever at the 55 bar, or wherever you end up.
Yeah, for sure.
So maybe it's not such a bad thing that, you experienced New York without drinking for a little while.
Yeah, well, that was the big advantage, or the big plus of not drinking. It was like a tip for all of you listening. If you want to really if you don't want to spend any money at a bar you go to, just order a soda or some seltzer water, because in a lot of cases the bartender will be way too stressed out to even ask you for money. Because I think most times I went in and ordered a non-alcoholic drink, I would like start handing them some cash, and they'd be like, no, please go away. And I would usually just get a drink for free, and I wasn't even playing. So it's kind of nice. It's very nice.
Not a bad strategy.
Yeah, not at all.
Now, one thing that, I mean, I admire you for a lot of different reasons, your musical ability for sure. But one thing that was really inspiring was earlier last year, I guess about a year ago, you did a project where you were releasing like a new video. I mean, you did a few challenges, like creative challenges that were amazing. But the first one that I remember you doing was releasing a new video every day for 30 days. And these weren't just like little videos of you talking. These were like fully edited, clever, like video editing, musical. I mean, they were little works of art. They were amazing. I mean, what inspired you to do that project?
Ooh, that was a mix of a lot of desires I had. I've for a while I've desired to be consistent with whatever I'm trying to do. I've been really big on trying to build up discipline, or really to just gain discipline. So I was finally able to somehow trick myself into, having that discipline to wake up every day and do that exact project, for a whole 30 days. I guess the only thing that inspired me to do it was just feeling, not feeling good about my discipline or my, consistency for a number of years. So this was just a challenge that came up that I thought of that was like, maybe this will finally, have some leeway, or this will finally make a difference.
Well, one thing that was great about it was that, I think as players, as people who play in bands and get called for gigs and things like that, it's like, I realized during the pandemic that I had spent a lot of years playing a lot of music and not necessarily recording a lot of music, and definitely not taking charge of a lot of projects, where the thing I didn't have my stamp on a lot of the things that I had been involved in for the last 10 years of my life or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I think that the pandemic showed a lot of us that when the gigs are gone and there's, it's just you, like what can you make, and I think a lot of people spend a lot of money on recording equipment and computers and cameras and things like this, because we have this desire to express ourselves and we can't do it at a bar or, in your case on stage. Do you feel like you have this desire now, having done that, do you feel that there's a desire to continue like a habit of creation every day, or just like constantly having a project to complete?
Yeah, absolutely. I really do want to keep that consistency going, which is hard, but I don't want to not ever do that again. Mm-hmm. And I think doing that project really helps build up my confidence of a Derek Dupuis solo career, or Derek Dupuis as its own artistic entity, of me as my own artistic entity. I don't know why I said that in the third person, but
versus Derek Dupuis, the keyboard player for hire, the
exactly
hired gun.
Yeah, the guy who can just play keyboards in the back, and he doesn't write music, or he doesn't really express himself on his own, that kind of thing. Nothing against sidemen in that way.
Sure.
But there's two totally different worlds. One is completely of improvisation, and then another one is building up a multifaceted kind of like media thing, I guess, or just songwriting and stuff like that.
Yeah, and making things.
Yeah.
Like actually making things versus just this other quality of music, as you say, this other way of doing it. You said improvisational, like it's like an ephemeral quality of music that is kind of built into music, that we play it and then it's gone. Mm-hmm. And that's also what makes it great. That's what's so special about a great concert that you go to, say, I think, is that it really existed, but it only existed for that moment. And you can snap a picture, you can take a lousy video on your phone, but you can't take it with you. That music happens in the room, and that's what makes it so special as an art form.
Yeah. And that's beautiful in its own way.
Yeah.
And very almost exclusive and unique. And it was like you had to be there, or the experience is there and then it's gone. And then you just have to experience something different later.
But I think like one thing that I've realized is that writing music and actually making things is kind of an expression of the same kind of thing. Like whatever song comes out of you, or in your case, whatever video you made that day is not going to be the same video that would have come out 2 weeks from now if you had procrastinated on it or delayed it. Like there's a quality about creation that is still kind of improvisational, don't you think? Like songwriting is still kind of performative in a way. Would you agree?
Oh yeah, totally. I think whatever you create at whatever time is totally influenced by what is happening right at that moment. And yeah, you're totally right. It could be completely different if you waited a day or a week or anything like that. Yeah.
So what's inspiring you these days?
Ooh. I'm not sure. Well, we just finished the holidays, so thinking a lot about friends and family. That's been really inspiring. Music, like especially musically. All the roommates are back in the house, and I'm inspired. I'm always inspired playing with them. I'm inspired playing with my family too. I was just in my grandparents' house for Christmas, and my grandmother was at the piano, like playing some Christmas tunes, and just like watching that is inspiring itself. And then apart from that, just trying to listen as much as I can. I've been on a big George Harrison kick recently because of the Beatles documentary that came out. So it's really been that, and books too, trying to get inspired by books and video games.
What books are really inspiring to you these days, or just throughout your life even? Like what are some books that really haven't had a big impact on you?
Science fiction has been really big. I'm currently on the 3rd book of Dune, the Dune series, and that series is just incredible. I feel like nobody really talks about anything after the first book, but really that whole series is just so wild in terms of how all of these intense and convoluted storylines interconnect, and how the different characters just have so many different sides to themselves. I also just got a Kurt Vonnegut book for Christmas, which you recommended, which is why I asked for it. So trying to read The Sirens of Titan little by little.
One of my very favorites. Mm-hmm. Nice. You've been diving in a little bit.
A little bit, yeah. So Malachi Constant is just getting started on his adventure. But I'm not very good at reading 2 books at once. So it's like I read a couple pages of Kurt Vonnegut, and then I got to go back to the Frank Herbert.
Nice. Well, we won't go too much further here. I just really appreciate your time. Thanks for being on the show. I guess as we wrap up, the main question, central focus of this podcast, the main question we're trying to get at is, why do we play music? Why do you play music? I think everybody's answer to the reason why is really fascinating, because as we pursue music as a career, or even just as a serious hobby, it's expensive, it's difficult to make money, it's challenging mentally, it's just a difficult path. It's probably a lot easier to go into like coding or investment banking or something like that.
Yeah.
No offense to coders or investment bankers, but the money is just it's a real factor for musicians, and it's difficult. Mm-hmm. So I'll just ask you in a blank kind of way, why do you play music? In your own words.
I play music. Short answer, it is it's a very comfortable thing. It's a very familiar thing for me, because of my upbringing and just being around it all the time. But at the same time, I still feel like I can discover new things and push myself and learn about myself, like I said earlier. So yeah, I play music because it feels really familiar and comforting and almost homey to me, but it's still satisfying.
And it also, as you said, is an avenue for self-reflection and personal growth now as an adult. It's a channel for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's my main channel for that, to be honest. That's
great. Well, Derek, thanks so much. So let's wrap it up, and could you mention a few places where people can find you online? I know you have a couple of records on Spotify.
Mm-hmm. Under my own name, Derek Dupuis, Dupuis is my last name. That's how you spell it. So I'm on Spotify. I'm on Instagram. You can find me on my first and last name as well. At the moment, that's it. Website is going to be coming soon.
All right, great. Derek Dupuis, thank you so much.
Thank you, Steve. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. Cool.
Bye.
Last Sunday morning, the sunshine felt like rain. A week before, they all seemed the same. With the help of God and true friends, I come to realize I still have 2 strong legs and even wings to fly. So meanwhile, I ain't wasted time no more. 'Cause time goes by like pouring rain, yeah. Faster things, oh yeah. Lord, Lord, Miss Sally, why are you crying? Been around 3 long days, looking like you're dying. Well, step yourself outside and look up at the stars above. You go on downtown, baby, and find somebody to love. And meanwhile, I ain't wasting time no more. 'Cause time goes by like hurricanes, yeah. And faster things, oh no, no. You don't need no gypsy to tell you why. You can let one precious day go by. Oh, look inside yourself, and if you don't see what you want, sometimes then you don't. So leave your mind alone and just get out. After many years have gone, and all the wolf freaks die off, leaving us alone. We'll raise our children in the most peaceful way we can. It's up to you, big brother, to try again. So hear us now, we ain't wasting time no more. 'Cause time goes by like hurricanes, yeah. Running after the subway train. Don't forget the pouring rain now.
probably could. Yeah, man.